Why has Beckett not decertified a card that they know is a counterfeit that they have authenticated? Hey, it's Mike. Thanks for tuning back in. So this is a really interesting one. And this one kind of happened on Tuesday, but has been in the works for months. That I wasn't even aware of this. Tuesday, I got a text message from a friend saying, "Hey, are you aware of this situation with Beckett and Golden Auctions?" And I said, "No." And they said, "Go check out a post on Auburn 35's Twitter from about a week ago." And I went, I looked, somehow missed it. And the legend Auburn 35, I thought I saw all of his posts. It's possible sometimes I see some and I just don't understand them. My brain doesn't see. If you say this card is fake and you don't tell me why, I'm probably gonna be like, I don't know. So, but I missed it. And so I reached out to him. I looked at the post and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. The card is a 1997-98 Skybox Kobe Bryant Premium Star Rubies, number to 50, graded a BGS 8. And it was graded by BGS in 2018. And it had been removed already from Heritage auctions back in March. It was actually because Blowout forums, people on Blowout, those guys are insanely smart, discovered that it was a counterfeit. And we'll get into how you can tell. But, and they alerted Heritage, and Heritage removed it. And somebody also discovered that it had at one point sold on PWCC/Fanatics almost a year ago for $56,000 and doesn't show up in their sold items. So it either was canceled or went unpaid, or they removed it because they discovered it was a counterfeit. Somebody in that Blowout forum also says that Beckett allegedly knew back in March that it was a counterfeit, and they were working with the buyer. They worked with Heritage apparently to remove it, and were working with the buyer to get it off the market. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. There were no further details provided, but you've got to think that they were, by working with the buyer, should be providing a payment to the buyer, to the seller, I should say, saying, hey, we authenticated this, we would like to buy it from you, and then they would destroy it. That's the way it should work. It's now back in a week, I guess on Tuesday, listed on Heritage. Sorry, this should say listed on Golden. And at the time it was at like $41,000 or $46,000. And I texted my contact at Golden, and it was removed, I don't know, maybe an hour later. Now, Horacio of Collectibles on SI, who does an amazing job. Actually, this is my second time in the last week or so citing a Horacio article. The last one was what we assumed was the counterfeit Ty Cobb in the GAI slab that turned out to be legit. But I don't know if he's a journalist by trade, but he does some amazing journalism for Collectibles on SI. And he's written this great article that lays out the entire situation. And so I'm going to kind of highlight that. But I also want you to go and read his article because he does a better job of it. And he has all the links. So I'm going to link it in the description of this video. Go check it out. So yeah, it was listed on Heritage in March. Heritage pulled it down after Blowout pointed out that it was a counterfeit. It also had an MBA, Mike Baker authenticated sticker on it. And I don't know, I can't imagine that Mike Baker authenticated when he's putting a sticker on a slab. They can't authenticate a card because they can't look at it without the slab. So they must just assume the Beckett slab means that it's authentic. Maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to correct me in comments. But Mike Baker Authenticated also deactivated their sticker. Now, we don't know when they removed it. It was presumably back in March when this whole blowout things happened. But the Beckett slab still persisted. So from 2018 until 2025, it still existed. And so now PWCC presumably removed it or canceled it. Heritage removed it from their auction, mid-auction. Golden removed it mid-auction. And NBA has deactivated their sticker. But here we are on Friday, and Beckett's certification is still active, which is crazy to me. So how can you tell this is fake? It's tough. It's not easy. And some of actually CGC wrote an article last month in July of 2025. Is this related? I don't know. With how do you tell a Star Rubies card, premium card is fake? And some of it is like you need to tell under certain lighting, but then there are some other ways too, which we will highlight because that I believe that's how these hobby sleuths at Blowout were able to tell. So the red foiling is one thing with the lighting, but the serial numbers, a real serial number has a more curly 0 in the serial number and a thicker 3. And you can see on one of these, it has a more curly, one of them is more kind of pointed. A fake one is pointed and has a thinner 3, but the 3 in a real one is thinner. You gotta really look closely. Also on the premium, where it says premium in the logo, the letters are thinner on an authentic one, and they look fatter on a fake one, as you can see here. So this happens with every grading company. PSA authenticates fake cards, CGC authenticates fake cards. We're still wondering about I can't even remember the player's name, the T206 that I wrote an article about for my newsletter last winter, maybe. And everybody believes it's fake because it's the only one in existence, and it was believed to not exist in the first place. But they're just not responding. We also have the Independence Day Ohtani that we know is trimmed, and PSA is not doing anything about it. But this is a really interesting one. Is it because it's so valuable? Similar to the Ohtani, which was only $2,500 at the time, probably a year or so ago when I did that video. It's probably, I don't know, $3,000 to $5,000 now, based on where the market is. Is it because it's so expensive? Is it because maybe the person who owns it doesn't want them to deactivate it? If you think about Ken Kendrick, the owner of the Diamondbacks, he owns the T206 Wagner that was trimmed, and PSA offered to buy it back from him for the amount he paid for it years and years ago. And he said no. He likes the infamy, the notoriety that card has because it's known to be trimmed. And he has pretty smartly, I would think, held on to it despite it being a known trimmed card. Is it possible that the owner of this card knows it's counterfeit and doesn't care? And in that case, should Beckett still deactivate? I think yes. I'm curious for your opinion. Now, John Keating, when I tweeted, why hasn't Beckett deactivated this? John Keating said it's because Beckett deactivated themselves during the pandemic, which I think is probably the most likely answer to this. It's funny as well, of course, because Keating is hilarious. But Beckett has been basically non-existent in the hobby, and a lot of people are speculating that Fanatics might take this opportunity to jump in and poach them. I don't know, but what is Beckett doing? They don't have any money. We know their owner or CEO was embroiled in some legal issues and I think was in prison, or might still be, I'm not sure. And then now they have a new ownership group, kind of. It's very, it's hard for me to follow. So it's not something that I'm going to try to explain here in this video, but Beckett doesn't seem to be active in the hobby anymore. They're still grading some cards, a very small number of them, but there's no face of Beckett. There's no PR. They tried having a guy from Texas doing some social media publicly, like a face of Beckett kind of, for a while, I don't know, a year and a half ago, and that just died down very, very quickly. But what do you think Beckett is doing? What is up with them? Why would they not deactivate this card? Is it simply because it would be too expensive to buy it back? I'm not sure, but I'm hoping to get as much eyes on this as possible, as many eyes on this as possible. So maybe they'll be forced to deactivate the card. There shouldn't be any active cards that are counterfeit in authentic slabs. There shouldn't be any trimmed cards that are graded 10s, for instance, like the Ohtani Independence Day. But you also need to know that sometimes these things happen. Graded cards sometimes are counterfeit, sometimes they are trimmed, and these companies should say, oops, and make it right. And that happens sometimes, and that's fine. That is not happening this time, though, and you have to ask why. I think it's because Beckett is just like Keating says, deactivated themselves. Let me know your thoughts. I appreciate you guys watching. I will see you on Sunday for another episode of Clearing the Bases. I hope you have a great weekend.